We are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we've just been reading this book online. We found it in public domain, public access, so no copyright strike or claim should affect us. We bring it to all for educational purposes alone, because we feel that maybe this book can help you, as the title states, to learn the truth about you and discover what you should be doing with your life. By Arthur F. Miller and Ralph T. Mattson. Contents page. Continued. Introduction. Just going to go through it briefly. It is a curious thing to be a person. No matter how difficult circumstances may become, there are not many people who actually wish they had never been born. Most people cling to life with a great deal of tenacity and are willing to embark on marriages, spend many years in school, and invest nearly half a century in some vocation or job, place of employment, all on the gamble that it will all somehow turn out to be fulfilling. Gamble it is, for in our experience of counselling, the authors, that is, many hundreds of people of all ages and from widely varying backgrounds, they've discovered that a surprising number of people are in situations that can be described as unfulfilling or joyless. Most people wish they could do something other than what they are doing. Many people feel they are nobodies and all most desperately want to be somebodies with a calling to fulfill and a reasonable chance of pulling it off. There are thousands of young people who are accused of not having direction in their lives, and most of them want direction but do not know how to find it. There are tens of thousands of adults who want some sense of purpose in their workaday lives, but who have little knowledge of how to go about getting it. There are hundreds of thousands of people who spend their lives as if they were adrift, trapped in their circumstances. There are millions of housewives, students, salesmen, bosses, waitresses, executives, ministers, and auto mechanics who do not fit the lives they lead. Most people are uncertain about the rightness and usefulness of their lives. They are looking for signposts that will give them purpose and direction. In this book, an amazing discovery is described which can change the life of any reader who is unsure of his direction or life's meaning. At a minimum, it will provide a practical way for you to find out why you are unfulfilled in the life you lead. It will enable you to make sound decisions about education, marriage, and career. In short, it can give you a perspective and understanding about the large and small affairs of your life, which can move you from struggling in the sand to standing sure-footed on the rock. Our sense of fulfillment seems to be a matter of biblical concern. Apostle Paul himself gets quite specific about this. He encourages individuals to find and exercise their gifts in very practical ways, because every person that comes to Christ, comes to God apparently, is given a certain gift. Be it the gift of the gab, gift of healing, preaching, etc. The gift of administration should be used in administration. A teacher should employ his gift in teaching, and one who has the gift of stirring speech should use it to stir his hearers. If you give to charity, give with all your heart. If you are a leader, exert yourself to lead. Romans 12, 7-9, New English Bible. The authors add their encouragement by providing techniques to aid you in discovering your own unique gift and by showing how it can be used to bless others while providing purpose and direction for your life. It is no longer necessary to gamble so largely about how to move in life. Though we cannot live without risks, it is possible to engage the future. knowledgeable about what makes good sense for us. And then he goes into the acknowledgements, people that helped him out throughout this book, or with this book. Arthur F. Miller Jr., People Management Incorporated. Sounds like the guy could be related to is it the guy who wrote that originally wrote The Crucible? Was he called Arthur Miller? Not really sure. Part 1. The Astounding Phenomenon. You already are. Who are you created to be? The question is simple, but in today's world quite revolutionary, because it suggests that the answer resides in you rather than in what your family expects you to be, or what your boss is trying to make you, what your husband or wife wants you to be, what your teacher is telling you to strive for, what your friends are hoping you'll accomplish, what society is trying to make you become. The world, for the most part, assumes you are something to be moulded or manipulated or shaped or trained or taught, that you are the raw material for someone else's intentions. Our contention is that you have a design of your own, God's blueprint, and can only be fulfilled when you carry out that design, regardless of how high or low on the ladder of success you are. Some people appear to have a destiny. From their earliest years, they seem to fulfill a design for their lives, whether it is inventing, composing, making money, painting, or politicking. Seeds of their eventual greatness were displayed so early that when fame came, the destiny seemed so obvious, the design so clear. The idea of having a destiny, romantic and attractive as it is, seems reserved only for the famous. However, what is true of the great ones is also true of you. You also have been designed. You also possess what is God-given. Probably like you, the authors had been brought up with the idea that they could become anything they wanted. Being Americans, they thought from their earliest years that all options were open to them if they were willing to work hard enough. They could become doctors or potters or lawyers or teachers or carpenters or actors or artists or plumbers, whatever they wanted to be. All they had to do was have some talent to develop. A lot of times we hear all you have to do is apply yourself. In some cases, if they were willing to practice hard enough, they might even develop the talents they otherwise did not possess. Then they encountered evidence that said otherwise. They discovered that people could not become anything they wanted. They could only become what was in harmony with who they were designed to be. The technique that the authors used involved a review of autobiographical achievements, extending from every childhood to the time of the individual's recollection. They discovered that a pattern of voluntary behaviour emerged early in the life of every person they evaluated. More than that, they could see that the pattern remained consistent throughout the individual's life. Relationships and results which were fulfilling for the person as a child were fulfilling as an adult, though on a higher level of maturity. Increased experience, additional education and maturing processes of all kinds only served when they enabled the individual to fulfill, in one way or another, what he or she always wanted to fulfill. In over 3,000 cases, there was not one exception. This was extraordinary in view of the stance most of the social scientists and educators have taken. It not only went against the grain of much of their own education, but it presumed an understanding that denied the validity of man's corporate, institutional and government procedures in dealing with people. For example, corporations believe it is possible to train people to become what is needed, a manager, a salesperson or a planner. The authors have had a mountain of evidence to demonstrate that only certain people are managers or salespersons or planners, and that no person with whom they have dealt ever became a manager or anything else fundamentally different from what he already was. Yeah, if you're going to be a manager and you struggle, well, maybe you weren't meant to be a manager. It's just not you. Like, there's some people who get into management and they're unbelievable, they're extraordinary. But their sales are up, profits are high, etc., etc. Just like this natural talent, right? As we said, as others struggle with it, they can never seem to make it to that same level, no matter how much they taught, how much they learn, how much they try, it just doesn't happen for them. Schools believe that pupils who work for grades can be changed to become students who learn for learning's sake. The authors have discovered that this is not possible. Churches believe that pastors who may preach well but who cannot administrate can be encouraged to develop eventually into administrators. And these authors had clear proof that it can never happen. Mothers who are motivated to make money and not raise children will not, in spite of years of actually raising children, become motivated to raise children. Students who are excited only about technological specifics will never, despite extensive exposure to the liberal arts, be converted to an enthusiasm for philosophic abstraction. Scientists who enjoy the craft of acquiring knowledge cannot be made to enjoy the craft of producing hardware merely by paying them more. People begin with a specific design that remains consistent through life, and that design cannot be changed. This is not to say that there cannot be alterations in a person's life, since there are areas in people which need development or modification. Character requires moulding and shaping so that who we are is worthwhile. Skills need to be taught so we may increase our effectiveness. Disciplines may be needed to reshape sloppy work habits or lifestyle. We read somewhere else, we didn't actually read a book, but it said something like on the title, it's not having talents, gifts, etc., it's having the skills. All of these improvements to ourselves, however, enhance who we are, but do not change our basic selves. Who we start out to be as a child matures, grows, increases in understanding and power. But the person to whom all this happens remains the same. As astounding as this discovery was to these two authors, there was no doubt as to the validity of this truth after experiencing absolute consistency in case after case. A phenomenon, not a theory. It is important to understand that these authors are not proposing a new theory of behaviour. What they're describing is a phenomenon that is clearly demonstrable and does not emerge out of statistical studies or psychological experimentation. They have made no attempt to make evidence fit a theory, since they began with no theory. The phenomenon they describe does not show quite often or even frequently, it shows always. In the same way that people are sure to have noses, the nature of a human being is such that each is sure to have a design that emerges in childhood and stays consistent all his life. How is such a thing possible? If the evidence is so strong, why hasn't it been known earlier? While there has been research developed by a number of people which also supports their position, there are several reasons why many others involved in people research have been slow in accepting its validity. And the authors believe the philosophical predispositions of most professionals dealing with people have slowed the pursuit of such an idea. First, if researchers believe that people are essentially putty to be shaped by social influences and training, it would not occur to them to consider the possibility of humans as already possessing a shape. It certainly would be an unnerving idea to those who are intent upon the planning and development of human beings according to the needs of society or a utopian ideal. Second, if researchers believe people are merely evolved animals without a will, without unique individual and inherent differences, the reality of what we have discovered will not be examined. The assumption that the will is only a biochemical process has been foundational in most research into human behaviour and has generated a methodology which cannot even get at the individual. Third, the authors knew that people really take the time to even attempt to consider their own design, much less develop the thorough, in-depth evaluations that characterise their work. Thus, no other data has been available for the kind of conclusions that these authors reached. In addition, few have the advantage of the long-term relationships peculiar to their work, allowing the opportunity to observe people working out decisions which result from the knowledge of their own design. The authors have been in an ideal position to observe the curious phenomenon of individual human design. They have reacted to those observations with a considerable degree of delight, for they lead to the freedom that emerges when we realise we do not have to be in the dark about who we are. It is possible to discover our own design. We can give up guilt for not becoming the person someone else wants us to be. and we can then move confidently in ways that are fulfilling. Parents can have a solid understanding of each offspring's design before they invest thousands of dollars for an undergraduate degree. People entering careers which will impact on the lives and values of others can be and ought to be sure of their design before they become teachers, preachers, policemen, psychologists, physicians or social workers. Those whose qualifications of education and experience fall short of their ambitions can examine who they really are and look for positions which can realistically fulfill them. People near retirement can understand their design so they can evaluate the reality of their dreams and make decisions about future activities which they and their spouses can live with. Young people who are about to prepare for careers chosen primarily through the influence of parents or others can justifiably object to the manipulation with considerable supporting evidence. They can look for and find and focus on their own design. When we use the word design, these authors use the word design, they mean more than a description of talents or abilities. Anybody can list at least one or two talents that he knows he has. That is nothing extraordinary. What the authors are intent upon is something more basic. They seek a description of the essential pattern that resides behind a person's talents and determines how and when they are used. They aim at knowing that fundamental part of us that needs to be fulfilled before we can believe our talents have value. 2. Where to look, and he goes through that. He talks about the will. Everything we do is determined by the will, the core of our being, which affects our attitudes, physical capabilities and intentions. The will has a shape which is as unique from individual to individual as are people's physical characteristics. Though we are dealing with a spiritual reality of human nature, which obviously cannot be described visually, the will can be said to have a spiritual shape which manifests itself by its intentions. We believe it's more the choices, the decisions, rather than the will. Because you can apply a will, okay, it's not going to happen unless you're saying to yourself basically, I will it to happen, and then you live as if it's already happened. Okay. In your mind you're willing it, you're saying this is going to happen, and it happens. We say more decisions, choices get you to that end goal, whatever you're actually looking for to achieve. It's the old saying, where there's a will, there's a way. But if you don't have that will, you don't have that willpower, it isn't going to work for you, is it? No matter how much you try. It's when you get down basically on all fours and say, right, I want this, I really want this, I've decided and I'm determined, I'm going to do this and I'm going to achieve it, whatever your goal is. Okay. Look at the example of Bruce Lee. Okay. He was so determined to be the best at whatever he set himself, and he went hard out, almost fanatical, until he achieved that. And he achieved it. Yeah. Like he'd say something like, well, in so many years I'm going to have $10 million or something like that. Unfortunately he died before he got it, but if you had a look at his 3 life policies, it ended up amounting to that. Etc, etc. Okay, so conforming to your design, your motivational patterns is highly dynamic, since it is the essence of your will, basic to who you are. Every part of your being is key to this pattern. Your work life is good if it accommodates your motivational pattern, and bad if it does not. Your learning experiences, recreation, hobbies, social life and community activities all reflect your pattern, and so forth. What we're trying to do is trying to get to page 23, where this is the crutch of the problem, right? Let me go back one page. Okay, 3. Conforming to your design, your motivational pattern is highly dynamic, since it is the essence of your will, basic to who you are. Every part of your being is key to this pattern. Your work life is good if it accommodates your motivational pattern, and bad if it does not. your learning experiences, recreation, hobbies, social life and community activities all reflect your pattern. There are many reasons why you can be depressed, but a most common reason for irritation, anxiety or frustration is other people. That's what we believe. They can be the reason why you get depressed. Other people at you all the time, right? Doing this, doing that, coming to your house, taking advantage, stealing your things, okay, etc., etc., just using and abusing you, okay. Once it's all the well's dried up, like they're like Tonto and the Lone Ranger, got right off into the sunset, never to be seen again, until they know or figure out from somebody else maybe you've got all this stuff accumulated again, so they come back and use and abuse you again. Try and worm their way in with any old excuse that they can think up, right? There are many reasons why you can be depressed, but a most common reason for irritation, anxiety or frustration is when life blocks the use of your pattern. On the other hand, you experience joy, completeness, meaning and satisfaction when your design is effectively exercised. There is an enormous price in dollars and health and dissatisfaction paid by people who are in positions or jobs or roles which do not allow them to use their gifts to carry out their designs. Jobs. We know at management levels, or these authors know at management levels, that few people are employed in jobs well suited for them. You're in a job you hate, or it's just not you, right? No matter how much you try. Conservatively, 1/3 are poorly matched with their jobs. Family. The family is the stage for a large number of problems because of misfits of people and roles. Consider men who are motivated to be in charge, married to women who want to be number one, women motivated to serve, married to loners, men motivated to prevail, married to women who seek to please others, men motivated to be hands-on, managers, raising sons who are motivated to be highly independent of authority. School. The effects in school, because of the failure to understand the uniqueness of the individual and to use intelligently the knowledge of motivational patterns, are incalculable. There are people whose gifts need the discipline of college, yet who are not attending college. There are students not motivated to learn, yet who are nevertheless attending college or graduate school, as there are people who are not geared to be teachers, yet attending teachers' colleges. Pressure to conform. This is a real kicker. Beyond your school, your job and your family is a lot of world, and that world is composed of all sorts of pressures for you to meet. Throughout your life, you have been asked and will continue to be asked to conform to somebody else's image or to function in a way acceptable to others. If that demand accommodates your design, you and your immediate environment are together. If you are different from what others want you to be, you and that part of your world are out of sorts. Unless you understand your design well enough to move into a compatible activity, you may be on the verge of experiences which are very costly because they prevent you from being who you really are. Take the time to find out. You cannot expect society or your family or your employer or your school to find out the nature of your pattern in order to discover how to relate to you. They have not done so. You need to. You have paid dearly by not knowing. Much is to be gained by you, society, your family and your employer if you will take the time to find out who you are created to be, to discover your gifts. The gifts we possess are more than ample for any reasonable but fitting task. When such a gift is carefully nurtured, subjected to the discipline of an education or apprenticeship, and used, perhaps even a mentor, and used in a responsible, loving way, the product is beautiful to behold. The beauty of a gift exercise. Have you ever paused to watch a waitress, well suited for her work, serve a table of hungry patrons? How marvellously she handles them in their impatience, how she anticipates their requests, how neat she looks, how efficiently she moves to encourage, to recommend a selection, to replace some burnt toast, how her eyes constantly return to her tables as she makes her rounds. Contrast her and her gifts with the more common restaurant experience of being served by people who do not have the gifts required. There is a large and obvious difference. Can you recall a teacher who turned on a light for you? Remember how she would make such complicated things seem so simple. It means wow, I never knew that. Wow, you made me, yeah, I totally understand it. Thanks for that. Yeah. Remember how she would make such complicated things seem so simple? How she would seem really concerned about you? How she would joke and storm and then grow up very serious, all in the same class? How eagerly you looked forward to her class? Contrast her gifts with the other 80% of your classes taught by men and women whose gifts did not foster learning. What a difference when the gifts fit the job. People gifted at their work are a wonder to behold. A shoemaker manipulating a fine piece of leather, a mother alternately disciplining and consoling a child, a repairman tracking down the trouble, an internist diagnosing an illness, an errorless typist beating a deadline, a cabinet maker fashioning physical beauty, an executive secretary handling difficult people without alienation, the singer who transports you into a special world, the writer who moves you to smiles and tears, the minister who exalts, the artist who inspires, the coach who animates, the comic who makes the sun shine at night, the deafness of the surgeon, and the toolmaker and the dentist. You can be a gifted person. Each of us, you, can be a so-called gifted person, as in any of the foregoing. If you identify the gifts that you have been given, submit them to whatever training may be necessary, and then employ your gifts in work which requires them. These are good gifts if used in work appropriate for them. Will yield you and those who employ you much material and personal reward. No person has achieved success in any field of endeavour except through reliance on gifts. What is true of the individual is also true of the organisation. No business or institution has built a successful service or product except as a direct result of some men and women using their God-given talents. What was successful can only remain successful through other men and women using gifts which have been given to them. If those gifts are not present, what was a success will fail. There is no self-made successful man or woman. There are only people smart enough or grateful enough to be good stewards of the gifts. So whenever you have the opportunity of observing a successful family or a successful bank or manufacturing company or retail store, you can be sure that enterprise has at least one or more key people with good gifts employed in work accommodating those gifts. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you did what we are recommending, or these authors are recommending? Can you begin to imagine how the world would benefit if people were educated and employed on the basis that each person was gifted? Regardless of how old or young you are, how long on the totem pole you see yourself, how impoverished your educational upbringing, you have been given good gifts. You have been designed and have a role to play that will fulfill you and please others. Discover your design. Part 2, gathering data. 4, satisfying achievements. This is an age when people are offered a large number of techniques aimed at self-knowledge. Many of these have their roots in Eastern religions and tend to be steeped in the mystical. Others are based on theories one must hope are true, since their validity cannot always be demonstrated. Procedures are often complex, some impact only on the emotional life and are inoperative outside that. In motivation patterning, however, the technique is transparent and the results come from the ordinary achievements in an individual life as well as from the extraordinary. Since the authors are dealing with a phenomenon and not a theory, they only need point out what is demonstrated in the everyday lives of ordinary people, as it has shown in the lives of every one of the hundreds of people that these authors have evaluated. So it will with you. You need not fear that you have no motivational pattern, that you have no gift. Having a pattern seems to be an absolute ingredient of being human. Before you gather the data for discovering your own pattern, it will probably be helpful to examine some of the enjoyable achievements of someone else and see the evidence for that pattern. The case the authors present here is for that purpose. When looking over the achievements listed, you will see that they are experiences that begin in childhood and extend through adulthood. Remember, too, that each item included is justified by the satisfaction it produced. The italicized words in each of the following sections were taken from a list of achievements written by the achiever. The words following are actual edited quotes from a taped interview which elaborated on how the achiever went about doing what he or she did. crows, cows and people. Childhood. Fixing up a crow's wing, taking care of the bird for about a week and letting him go when he was well. And this person says they guess they were 7 or 8 years old and they're always collecting animals. One day they walked into this crow. They guessed it was a broken wing. He really wasn't sure, but it couldn't take off or fly off. So he carried it upstairs, had a bird cage, put the crow in there, so he took care of him. Then after about a week or so, just opened the little door and let the bird find its wings. School years, working with animals, etc. And at age 22 to 25, this person became an officer in the Navy, and so forth. Okay, it's a really good book so far. Okay, recall the joys. Prepare yourself for discovery. 5 major ingredients. 1 central motivation. Look, Ma, no hands. Just get me started. Operating with people. Togetherness, a team member. Doing it myself, an individualist. Do it the way I want, a director. A manager. Using certain abilities. The ability to build and develop structures, living things. The ability to convince and persuade anybody around. The ability to organise anything in sight. And so forth. This looks like a really good book to help you to achieve and utilise your God-given gifts. Yeah, it looks really, really good. So we suggest you have a read of it. Utilise it. You know, define the words. So that take anything out of context. With some really good dictionaries. Perhaps do a little toy using role play or something like that. We can leave a video at the end of this. The important notes from Dianetics, and it explains why you have problems studying and sticking with it and all this sort of stuff. There's other really good study strategies, techniques, methods out there. You don't want to get too bogged down with a lot of them. You can read it and cut out the fluff, the hype, and then just basically utilise it, use what works from it, and then develop your talents, your gifts, etc. With gifts, etc. But this is a great book, great place to start. And it's got some permanent principles that you could utilise to help you succeed along the way. Probably provides a lot of answers to questions. You know, like you come up against a wall and it helps you bust through it. Getting down to basics. And ask you who designed you. Just ask you to ask yourself who designed you. Are people animals? Are people automatons? Are people gods? The failure of theories. It's got a lot of scriptural verses there as well. By the looks of it, you just saw Psalms 139, 13 to 17, New English Bible. Gives you a bit of motivation there. You're just starting to get into the scriptures. Benefits and applications. From this book we gather. your place in the work world, central motivation, etc. It gets into relationships, the pros and the positives and negatives, how to deal with those, implications for society, and final words. It has an appendix. Could possibly go through those and then find a certain subject you want to know more about, or you want to go over again. Okay, and it's got here Appendix A, questions people ask. Don't people lie about their achievements? Are motivational patterns really accurate? By what standard is the achiever good at something? And so forth. And then there's Appendix B, SIMA or SIMA, biographical information. Systems for identifying motivated abilities. And it's got some sort of test here, or questionnaire here. Appendix C, SIMA interviewing procedures. Possibly when you go for a job or something like that. We're not really sure of that one. System for identifying motivation abilities, Part 2, interviewing procedure. Okay, probably, yeah. It seems like a questionnaire, a rough draft of a questionnaire you can put yourself through. Okay, there's the author there, but look at it, the two authors. And asks, how many people do you know that are really happy in their present jobs? Why do so many marriages end in divorce or mere toleration? What is the net real reason parents cannot understand their children's actions, and vice versa? Where can a young person turn to determine the right choice of education and career? All of these questions are different facets of the same vital concern, understanding what a person's motivations are and how those motivations can be fulfilled. Whether that person is yourself or someone close to you. 19 years of counselling and experience have convinced Arthur Miller and Ralph T. Mattson, that everyone has been created with an intricate set of motivation and gifts that form a basic, unchanging design. Moreover, findings have shown that a person experiences more and more fulfillment in life as he or she conforms to what he is designed to be, or created to be. Drawn from the evidence of thousands of individual cases, the truth about you shows how to identify this basic design and how to use this discovery to transform careers, marriages, and parenthood. Practical methods given enable a person to understand what he wants to accomplish in life, which type of subject matter he wants to work with, what kind of circumstances will turn him on or switch him on, how he wants to operate with people, and which abilities he is motivated or she is motivated to use. The truth about you will provide increased self-knowledge and a glimpse of the Creator, God the Creator, that will serve as an explanation of the past and a guide to the future. And here's some information about Arthur Miller. We probably already covered it in the beginning of this book, and Ralph T. Mattson. Okay. So we hope that this book really does help you to find out the truth about yourself and helps you to discover those gifts that you are designed with, that are God-given, etc., and you fulfill them. We used to run around for years and years not knowing what we really wanted to do, what we wanted to be. Just, like everybody else, just had a job, went to the job, came home, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff, right? Never really knowing what we wanted to be. We tried computers, thought, oh yeah, we're pretty good at that, but because we didn't have certain qualifications, we couldn't get a job. Yeah, like we'd apply for them, but they'd say, oh, you need this, you need that. We were told while we were doing the course to get the diploma, etc. Well, I help you find a job. Would you be able to handle sitting in front of a computer to start off with, because we always starts at the bottom, get about $20 to $23 an hour, something like that, for answering the phone, right? Your desk support, someone ring up and they go, oh, there's something wrong with my computer, it's not working. Okay. And they're talking to you and you say, okay, did you, is it plugged in? You have to go through the usual check, right? Oh, no, I didn't. And I didn't turn it on. Well, there's your problem, right? You get paid for desktop support, but they wouldn't hire you really, in reality, when you apply for that job. They'd say, oh, we have to come for this training. Yeah, okay, we already had that. So you got that, got a diploma, that's good. But do you have network plus, internet plus, this plus, that plus, and all this sort of stuff? Oh, no. Oh, I have to go do some sort of course, which means you pay more money to get all of those. Okay? Before we can hire you, or something like that. There are the lucky chances that you might just get a job where you fix Apple computers or something, because you know how to do it. Start from the bottom there and work your way up. There's always the odd chance, But mainly it's not what you know, it's who you know that gets you into that industry where we are, right? In this country. Okay. A lot of these courses that you do to get these qualifications, maybe the person will say, oh yeah, like I already mentioned, we'll put you here, do some work training, all that sort of stuff, and see if the person hires you, all this sort of stuff. But at the end of the period, you got your diploma but no job, because this person didn't really help you at all. They made you all these promises, so you'd pay that fee, attend the classes, because they get, say, 30 Australian dollars or whatever, New Zealand dollars for you attending their class per week. They get so much a day or so much a week. Okay, so that's basically why they want you to attend all the time. Okay, that's what the benefits that they get as a registered business or institution or educational facility. Okay, so yeah, we hope that this gave you some insight. This book, The Truth About You. If you like it, if you like this video, simply click on the like button, subscribe to us, then add comments underneath, tell us what you thought about this book once you've read it and what you think about this video, and then go share this video and our videos on our channel with all your family, friends and others, so they too may come to realise what their God-given gifts are, and then learn how to use them, utilise them, and become well-versed, successful through utilising those God-given gifts.